So yeah, man, if you ever wondered how I'm able to break so many stories, you know what I'm saying? I spend a lot of time here at City Hall, especially with the City Council chambers. That's how I broke stories on the Lincoln Beach, Gordon Plaza, and all things Mayor Cantrell.
Currently, the City Council is in the midst of budget hearings for how city departments will spend the $1.5 billion worth of funding for the city of New Orleans. The coaches from a local youth football team wanted to make sure their voices were heard at the NORD budget hearings.
I've been coaching at Goretti for 5 years, and I've never seen a piece of equipment come through from NORD.
Also, will voters give power to the New Orleans City Council to approve mayor appointees? A talk with Council VP JP Morrell about the blowback he's received for introducing the ordinance.
A lot of the, social media, online discourse, or whatever, is, well, JP's just doing this because he wants to be mayor.
It's an illogical argument that if I were a power-mad person seeking to be mayor, that I would limit the power of the mayor.
And Council President Helena Moreno weighs in on the first week of budget hearings.
Because I know that Sean, I believe that he's a good officer, that he wants to be a good officer. So I wanted to give him that shot to say, yes, I wanted to take care of my family, but I also
because there's people like me in the crowd who are just waiting. Committee for Better New Orleans is one of the city's oldest nonprofit organizations, and the work dates back to the mid-60s. The org's modern-day mission is to help create a more equitable, sustainable, and thriving New Orleans. Or as the newest director would say, CBNO is building a healthy soil for New Orleans grassroots.
And so your organization is working specifically to get the word out, because people need to know, people need to show up and have a voice in this process.
Totally. So
why is that important? Yeah, especially now, again, as we have more money really than we've ever seen in the city before.
I believe that New Orleans has never equitably recovered from anything. Period.
Wow.
Period. And maybe no city ever has.
But the devastation, the levels of devastation here have been
they've been pretty bad. I'm on regional calls with other places that don't rely as heavily on tourism, for example. They're not seeing the kind of revenue loss that the city is seeing. And so people need to understand what the deal is with this money, what it's allowed to be spent on and what it's not. The mayor herself learned that a lot of what she wanted to spend it on isn't actually feasible, so she poured a lot of that money into the NOPD in her latest plan. All of these plans and information are on our website, cbno.org. Our blog has posts tracking the American Rescue Plan, what the administration was saying prior to now versus what they're saying now. And also for this other pot of money, which we can talk about later, infrastructure money, a lot of tools for how to navigate that.
So again, we have this whole process. You want to get the information out to people, but now we have these hearings, and this is important.
There's kind of two main things that happen in the budget hearings. One, it's the opportunity for all of us in the public, in many cases, including the council, right? Because we all just got this last Tuesday. All of us at the same time. Gives us a chance to actually hear and ask questions about the budget. The budget hearing is one place to do that. Also, showing up at budget hearings indicates that people are paying attention, and I cannot stress this more highly. Every time I go to public officials, administration, council, the same, all of them. I hear the same thing over and over again. Well, we have these processes, but nobody comes. If nobody's coming, the process isn't the right process. We need to find a way to get more people to come. But here's the kicker. They say, nobody came, so nobody cares. And so even though the system is designed in such a way that it could be better at incorporating the feedback and the comments that people say, showing up is so important.
Yeah, and I think that's why it was good, because that situation with P-Town Mo, it involved directly with him and his kids. And so for him to show up, I saw it in person. It was the mood in the room changed, I know for the fact, because he was there. And I think that's what we need to see more of.
More on that a little later. But while we're here at City Hall, let's drop in on the City Council VP. JP Morrell, please.
Hey. What's up, man? What's up, man? Dude, seriously, this is the coolest office. Give me the tour. Start with Batman and work our way. We'll start with the DCU and work our way through the MCU.
This is about as good as DC is. So that's why they get this little bitty wall. This my daughter did this once. My daughter and my son. Freehand because she's a tremendous artist.
What's your favorite here? What are we working with?
Well, honestly, the great part about this in the Shield is this is actually signed by the entire Louisiana Senate.
Is this what you're about to do to the chart? No.
No, I mean, honestly, this is what we're about to do to the budget.
So yeah, we will start there. You know, Councilmember JP Morrell, you were elected a year ago. In this time, has it been everything you've expected?
It has. The analogy I use, it's like when you buy a house and someone tells you it's a fixer-upper. You're like, okay, I'm gonna have to go in there, do some paint, and then you go through the front door and there's no floor and no ceilings, and there really isn't a house, there was just a facade facing the street. That's kind of how it was walking into city government, because you knew it was bad, but you did not know how truly bad it was till you got through the front door.
Where do you feel you've missed the mark, maybe in this year, that maybe you came in and you had an expectation and you just haven't lived up to your own expectations?
I think I haven't done enough work to meet departments where they're at. Insofar as when I first came in, I kind of came in with a flamethrower to City Hall and to all the departments that were underperforming. And I think sometimes when you're looking at a department, you look at the people in upper management and how they're performing, and you don't realize how your criticism of upper management can affect people who are doing the day-to-day work. And what I would have done different if I look back at past me from 10 months ago, I said, listen, you really got to make a distinction between the people who are running the departments and the people who are in the departments, because those people all deserve to kind of get the same vitriol that people who are running the departments get.
This ordinance to change the city charter. Now, this is an opportunity for, from how I understand it, for the citizens of New Orleans to give the city council the ability, in short, to basically do a job interview for any of the department heads. Why was that so important, especially in everything that we're dealing with in the city, for you to jump on this first term right out the gate?
The way the charter envisions it is the mayor picks the head of each department, and there is no process. There's no interview process. There's no background process. There's nothing. And basically the public and the council figure out who's the new head of sanitation when a mayor announces that. And that could be at 3 a.m. on a Saturday night, for all you know. And for me, when you have these department heads that impact every aspect of your lives, and the arguments I heard when I first proposed the idea were, everyone said, well, why would you want to dissuade someone who's coming from the private sector to join government? And my response to that in driving this whole situation was, appointed department heads, they are accountable, or should be accountable, to the mayor, the council, and the people that pay their salaries. And when you set the tenor of appointments with the mayor handpicks you and you're never required to account for anything you do going forward, that sets a tenor throughout all of government where no one feels accountable to the people that pay their salaries.
A lot of the, social media, online discourse, whatever, is, well, JP's just doing this because he wants to be mayor.
It's an illogical argument that if I were a power-mad person seeking to be mayor, that I would limit the power of the mayor. I think that if you look at all the legislation that I've authored this first 10 months, a lot of it deals with bringing balance to the mayor-council relationship. I believe in a strong council. That's why I ran for council. That's why I didn't run for mayor last term or this current term. And honestly, I don't see mayor in the cards at all with the way my life is going. I've got 3 kids. My youngest is 6. My priority is being a parent. I enjoy the council because I enjoy being a legislator. I think whoever the next mayor is going to be, that's to be someone who has shown that their commitment is to the city above all else. And what I will tell you is that what bothers me on a real basic level with a lot of people who make that same breath about, JP's doing this or that because he's running for mayor, this or that, or whatever. I always wonder why people are so terrified of change. Like, even if I'm not looking to be the next mayor, but even people who are looking to be the next mayor, why are they scared of their appointees having to go and say what they're going to do and how they're going to do it? Right now, you have no voice in who gets picked whatsoever. No voice. no requirement that you be given the opportunity to see who this person is, their qualifications whatsoever. So if things stay the way they are, you will continue to get the not great product you're getting. If the charter amendment were to pass, at the bare minimum, a mayor would have to advertise who they're going to appoint. There would have to be a public meeting with public comment where people could show up and say, I know that guy. He stole my garbage can every day and, was running electrical wires to my house. He shouldn't be over utilities, whatever. There has to be a public hearing, has to be a public process. It's bare minimum. And I don't know why, for the life of me, people are terrified of it.
As Nellie Katzen from CBNO said earlier in the show,
showing up at budget hearings indicates that people are paying attention, and I cannot stress this more highly.
And that's exactly what we saw when P-Town Mo recently showed up at the NORD budget hearings with a local football coach.
I do want to state on the record so that it won't be run with in social media that we aren't cutting NORD's budget. What we're doing is smartly budgeting, and every quarter now, which will be more work for our city council, we'll be looking to see if you filled certain positions, and we'll find a way to restore that money. So I just want to make it clear, no, we are not decreasing funding for NORD.
Not often do I disagree with a colleague, but I disagree. We are cutting NORD. Whether it's position, I agree that we are cutting positions that may not be necessary. But what I disagree with is that we have a tremendous amount of programs that are maybe not direct NORD programs we couldn't fund through NORD. But what the council could always do is find groups to partner with you and fund them through you.
The two men had two items on their agenda. The first was a lack of financial support from NORD.
Next, Mr. Durrell. Craig Durrell.
I'm a volunteer coach at Goretti Playground of the 9 and 10-year-olds, and I want to speak on the funding for the kids. As a coach, you shouldn't have to buy equipment for a kid. You know what I'm saying?
Mr. Durrell,
as a coach, you shouldn't
Mr.
have.
Durrell, you could maybe just straighten the mic out and speak a bit.
As a coach, you shouldn't have to buy equipment for kids, and you guys are being funded for it. As a coach, you shouldn't have to buy uniforms for kids, and you guys are being funded for it. For the kids that's unfortunate and have single household parents, we have to turn them around. And when we turn them around, they turn to the streets.
The next issue is a little bit more complicated. P-Town Mo said that his kid's football team was cheated by NORD officials, which caused an automatic loss to a NORD All-Star travel team.
This is my first year. I took my kids out of another parish to come play at NORD because I felt like theirs was better. I played. I was a star running back. You understand me? I played in NORD when Mr. Oscar was over NORD. You understand? And I got cheated. You feel me? We played Saturday, and by Wednesday they say I was overweight to play in a playoff game. After that, I'm 13 years old, bro. Check my record. After that, I'm in jail. I'm in Conchetta. I'm in Scotland. You feel me? All the stuff y'all was talking about earlier about the children breaking out Bridge City and all that, I went through all that because they took that football away from me, man. You understand? And cheating, man, that's not what's supposed to happen with this law, bro. You know, it's sad that we went and played a game Saturday in Slidell. Every call that was made was justifiable. You understand me? Those dudes gave us a clean, clear game. How we had to go way out here in other people's parish to be treated right.
I'm now being joined by City Council President Helena Moreno, and we'll just jump into it. You had a chance to sort of watch what happened there inside of City Council chambers. You weren't there that day. What did you think of the fact that you have community members struggling against NORD trying to help our children?
Oh yeah, that was quite, I guess you could call it the shakeup. But I'll say this, I mean, JD, that we had the coaches show up at council chambers, but this isn't out of the ordinary of what we hear about. This was just an instance where you actually have the coaches show up. But we've been hearing, this for quite some time where coaches don't feel supported, parents don't feel supported. And that kind of goes to the point as to taking a look at NORD's budget. If you take a look at their budget, they are receiving a reduction of roughly $1.5 million. Now, The director will tell you the reason for that is because of unfilled positions, right? And so therefore, they're doing what they call budgeting for actuals, like who is actually working there. But what I would say is let's use that $1.5 million and potentially beyond that to support our coaches, to ensure that we can expand services, to ensure that, you know, kids have uniforms, that coaches and aren't going out of their own pockets to try to provide the teams what they need when it's really Nord's responsibility.
Or as Councilmember Morrell said, you know, you can find other ways to fund programming in partnership with Nord. Now, what I found interesting, you know, sort of in that, and maybe call it a Freudian slip, Councilmember Eugene Green mentioned also police funding, and you know, NOPD had sort of their chance to come up and present their budget, in which you had this exchange with NOPD Chief Sean Ferguson.
I mean, I was having being candid. I mean, I was having family situations. I joined North Police Department because of the benefits.
Thank you for
the health benefits because I had 2 kids. Yes.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. You wanted to be paid well, but you weren't looking, you know, to go get rich out of being a police officer. You did it because it was a calling. Would you not disagree?
I did it because I needed the money to support my family at that time.
So listen, this clip made the rounds on social media. It was going everywhere. And you know how social media is. And I think we all know the game at this point. Small clips need context. Can you give a little bit more context to the line of questioning and what led you to ask him specifically about why he joined the police force?
So the conversation that was happening at the time was about the police recruitment and retention incentives, but really mostly around the recruitment piece, because we're offering, you know, tens of thousands of dollars for someone to join the NOPD and really the same to remain there. And, you know, my focus here was that, look, we can offer as much cash as possible, but until you make the NOPD, you know, a great place to work, because that's all that we've been hearing about: morale issues, favoritism.
Through the exit interviews, right?
Yeah, from the exit interviews, is that, you know, that it wasn't really cash that was an issue or feeling like they weren't paid well. The issue was how they were being treated by the department. And so the other piece too the other point that I was trying to make as well is that these types of incentives, is, for example, the $20,000 to join the NOPD, these similar types of incentives have been offered in other cities and they haven't made a difference. So like, why are we doing the same thing here? And if we're going to do the same thing here, like, what are the metrics? Like, within 6 months, like, what do you plan to see officer wise, plan to see crime reduction wise? So that was kind of the whole gist of the conversation. And the point that I was trying to make is that people who become officers don't just do it for the money. I mean, they do it because it's like they have a specific calling. Like, you could, I don't have it in me.
Civil service in general, I think people could say that takes a level of calling because it's public service.
It's public service. It's a really dangerous job, JD, as we know. I mean, you're putting your life out on the line. It takes that special type of person to be able to go out and do that every single day. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, I don't know if I have it in me to be a police officer, to do what they do. I mean, same with
especially in this climate.
Yes, same with, but even same with an EMT, same with a firefighter. Like, you have
frontline, yeah,
to be that type of first responder. And so anyway, so I had asked I wanted to just, you know, put it out there to the chief. It's like, hey, chief, you know, I'm assuming that you just didn't join this department to do it just for the money. Like, and this was not a trick question. This was just, you know, a question where I just assumed that, yeah, sure, everybody wants to be paid well, no doubt about it. But that, you know, there was also this sense of, yes, I want to help my community, or yes, I have to help serve, but that didn't happen. And I thought maybe at first you didn't hear my question right. And so I was like, you know, so I tried to kind of steer him.
Rephrase, yeah, let me kind of reset the question, right?
To kind of, because I know that Sean, you know, I believe that he's a good officer, that he wants to be a good officer. So I wanted to give him that shot to say, like, yes, I wanted to take care of my family, but I also
because there's
wanted
people like me in the crowd who are just like waiting, just
yeah,
waiting.
yeah.
So, you know, that's the thing. I think a lot of people were online were saying, well, what did you expect him to say? You know, so maybe not what were you expecting him to say, but in your mind, what were you sort of hoping he was going to say? Or where was the line of sort of questioning that you were trying to, I guess, lead him to sort of give a response?
The response I was hoping for is like, yeah, look, you know, I joined because I needed to take care of my family. I joined because of the benefits, but I also wanted to help my community. And I had this calling to do that as well. Like, that's just, I mean, coming from the chief of police, the leader of the NOPD, someone who's trying to recruit new officers, I would think that that was going to be like his response. So I was a little bit surprised by just the fact that he just stuck with like, nope, it was the money. I never wanted to be a police officer. It was the money.
You know, here's why I think that's important is, you know, we spoke with Councilmember Morrell about the, you know, the change to the charter that will, you know, if voters go out and vote yes, it will give the city council members an opportunity to hold confirmation hearings for all of the mayor's department heads, chief of police being one of them. Now, here's a question to you. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, you do have this confirmation power. And, you know, at some point there's going, you know, police chiefs, they either retire or they get promoted, like we saw with, you know, with people out of the NOPD. And now we have this spot open for a new police chief. And now let's say instead of this being a budget meeting, it's a confirmation hearing, and you hear that same response. What then goes through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would certainly during a confirmation meeting, that would be an eye-opening response. Like, this is, remember, almost like your job interview, right? When you go through a confirmation process. So I think that would have been an eye-opening type of response. But I think too, you know, I think that where you know, the council with the confirmation process could really be helpful is in situations like what we saw with Keyshawn Webster, who was over JJIC. And I think, JD, what's important to realize is that there is an employee who's been part of JJIC for many, many years, Ms. Williams.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I was going to say we have this clip from Ms. Williams that I want to run about her explaining this very emotional story of how there was a youth who went out to commit a crime just to come back to JJIC. Let's take a look at that.
He was released, I'm gonna just say roughly at about 3:30, and about 6 o'clock, he was at the front steps because he really didn't have anywhere to go. And the circumstance at JJIC obviously was better than what he was facing on the streets. He was released, the mom picked him up, but they were homeless. And so the circumstances in JJIC again was better, I guess, for him. And so he went out and committed crimes just so he can come back to JJIC.
You know, so again, we talked about the NORD budget. We talked about the NOPD budget. And again, with JJIC, they also had their chance at the budget hearings. When we look at the budget as a whole, because I think this is where we can land this, why is it so important that right now people pay so close attention to what these departments are asking from the city? Because this is their tax dollars at work. So why should people really be locked in? You know, because we could have missed this story about Ms. Williams, and now that really sort of has changed the context around the conversation around crime. Why should folks really be paying attention?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really interesting is that you're going to figure out, like, what is the city of New Orleans really prioritizing? And what I mean by that is you know, look at what the CAO and the mayor's office is proposing, but then really listen to the departments. You know, you heard Ms. Williams talk about the fact that, you know, the situation with the child that wanted to come back because that's where he could get a shower, that's where he could get a meal. But then also listen to her as well when she talks about problems that have existed for quite some time that are important security issues, like the fact that she talked about that the security technology breaks several times during every few months. And it
takes 3 days to come up, right? A minimum.
And she's been like saying, like, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. Guess what? The council never knew about it. until she came before us and told us that's nowhere in the mayor's budget. We're going to have to put it in there. So I think that's why it's really important for the public to listen into these meetings, because you find out like what is being budgeted and then what's important and being left out. And to your point, where we started this interview with is on the NORD budget. Like people would have known that the NORD budget was actually being reduced and that we could be spending these additional dollars on other ways to help, coaches, teams, and nonprofits who are working in this space.
Thank you so much. And, again, thank you for the hard work that you're putting in for the city of New Orleans.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
So yeah, look, that's it. This is how I do what I do. This is New Orleans Pulse. And this is what we gonna do, man. I'm out this thing.